Hello. I thought I would do a taster. So what I mean by that is a lot of people say to me like, "Oh, what's your training like?" And I'm like, "Well, it's very animated and very interesting and you get free resources." But that's not always enough. So I thought I'd do a little taster of one of my webinars. So one of my areas of specialism, put this one on my CV, is drugs awareness. So I thought I'd go through with you my presentation, but just roughly, all right? So drugs awareness presentation, and then if I can move my screen. So what I cover in this section is the most common illegal drugs. So what are they? Some trends to look out for. Um, why do people use? What do these drugs look like? What might someone present like if they take them? So going through that, and then obviously how to educate and effectively, because the just say no to drugs approach from the 1990s doesn't work. All right. And then, as always, the number one priority is about keeping people safe. And as with all my webinars, there's always at least one free resource to go with it. Okay. And that just saves people time. So I'll go through that with you. So I'm going to go through my presentation. I'm going to do it really quick because this is just a taster and it's a freebie just to give people a little feel for what I do. So talking about why it's really important. Number one reason is about being safe and harm reduction. What are drugs? And I often in my webinars, I'll get people to like pause and I'll say, right, pause. If you're on your own, write down some examples of drugs. If you're in a group, whether that's with a bunch of professionals or whether you're working with a bunch of young people, write down the name of some drugs that you can think of, okay? And then I get people to pause and then start playing the webinar again. Typically, what happens is people will always say illegal drugs, and then that's when I show this picture because people are like, oh, alcohol, a drug? Or someone might say, well, vaping, well, vaping's a drug. And it's like, well, actually, it's not vaping. It's what's in vapes that's a drug. And I try and get people to think about what are other drugs. So we've got caffeine, we've got nicotine, we've got heroin, we've got medicines. I try and also on webinars make people think of discussion points. So another discussion could be, are all drugs addictive? And no, they're not. Hence paracetamol, for example. Then we look at a definition of a drug, hence why it also includes, stuff like nicotine. I also encourage other questions. So it could be like, well, what do you think is the most common at the moment? And people can just get really immersive with the training. Then these are the drugs that I go through. Just to, I mean, a lot of people are like, oh, but what about heroin and crack cocaine? And if you wanted me to go to your workplace to deliver training and you wanted me to include that, then of course I can. But realistically, most young people will not ever take heroin or crack, okay? Really, really rare. Potentially as an adult, maybe. But again, even that is not that common. Okay, so these are the most common drugs to look out for. Also, as well, as a good opportunity just to say these drug education cards can be on my website as well. They're A6 postcards, 25p postcard, bargain. And it's got information about all the drugs on there, which are really good for awareness raising, to give out to people if they need information, and a nice little reminder as well, which is always helpful. And then I go through each of the drugs, what are they? Try and give off the odd fun statistic as well. For example, Ching is often talked about when we talk about cocaine, and it's because it's expensive. It is the most expensive drug, and it's something like 50 to 100 quid a gram. a little bag of white powder, basically. I also try and get people to think of like safeguarding stuff. So like if you've met a young person and they've said to you, oh, I've tried cocaine, or I take that, you know, I try and give off some tips on how to respond. My instant reaction is when someone tells me that is it cocaine? You know, because not always, you know, it's always important to not presume it is what they say it is. It could be amphetamine, which is similar, but lot cheaper. Also, if it is cocaine, so obviously it's about asking open questions and finding out some more information. You know, if it is cocaine, how are they funding it? All right, that's so important, because it's not cheap, is it? So it could be that they're dealing, it could be that they could be involved in sort of county lines or drug trafficking. So it's important to kind of like explore those kind of conversations with young people as well. So I go through the drugs, what they look like, bit of an update on trends. So like laughing gas, nitrous oxide, that became only illegal in 2023. So it's important to talk about any kind of like update on the law. Weed, you have to have a lovely big section on weed. You know, if you want, you could have a whole lesson just on cannabis. And if you are interested in that, I have created a webinar that's about an hour, and it is just on cannabis, and it does include a free quiz. Okay, I would encourage you to do that, because cannabis is the nation's favourite illegal drug. And then talking about, you know, what works in education. So it's about, you know, awareness raising. It's about what is out there in terms of people getting help. It's about being practically safe. So know how you're getting home. Don't mix drugs with alcohol. Don't share equipment. Focus on, you know, short-term information. And again, said it right at the beginning, it's all about being safe. And then obviously there's the answers. This is similar to what I would give out with the activity. So a Diamond 9 activity, you might have heard of it. It's about levels of risk or levels of importance to young people. So this activity with Diamond 9 is about safety messages, you know, and you could make these up, get young people to make these up, and then they position where they think it's important. So you could say, right, let's talk about how to be safe on a night out. And it could be like charge your phone up. It could be eat food before you go out. It's amazing how many young people don't eat. Make sure you've got an emergency fiver in your wallet. Make sure you've got a power bank, right? Write all these things down, and then how important is it? And put it on your Diamond 9 activity. And then have a discussion. It's also nice and kinesthetic as well. If you cut out all the diamonds, write it on there, young people can move it around, and they get to discuss, well, this is important. And someone else might say, well, I don't think it's as important actually as charging your phone. And someone will say, well, then have a power bank. And before you know it, young people are actually educating other young people, which is wonderful, which is always really good. So that's a little activity that I give with the drugs webinar. Give that out for free just to help people along. That again is just some more information on the harm reduction information. And then this is just literally, you know, where to go for more information. And that's typically how I end my webinars is, you know, where now, you know. Hopefully you will look up more webinars of mine, because I've got stuff on vaping, alcohol, drugs, anxiety, stress, sleep, anger management, motivation, you name it. And if there's something I'm missing, let me know. So thank you for watching my little taster. Hopefully you found it useful and hopefully you think you might actually buy one from the website. Happy to help anytime.